Yeah, so England are to play France again next year, which is, like I say, we really dived into that last week. There was a number of aspects that we weren't happy with. The wider rugby league community wasn't happy with, and I think the RFL have kind of accepted the fact they got it wrong with the England-France international. And listening to Roger Jones, his statement, was he the MD for Rugby League Commercial? He's kind of admitted that. He said, look, we haven't quite got that right. But next year, the fixture's going to be back on, which I'm glad to see, but it's going to take place in Perpignan next year.
I think not quite got that right is very, very, very... I don't know what the word is, but his actual words were lambasted. You know what I mean? So the rugby league community went at him at this. Every channel on social media just erupted, and this it was terrible coverage of an international. The peak of our game. Really,
I don't think we'll ever see an international game played as a curtain raiser. For Featherstone ever again, do you?
I don't think it'll happen again.
Yeah, so he did say that it was a disappointing portrait of international rugby, and 100% echo that. But I am glad that they're playing France again next year.
Yeah, that's the right step. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The right thing in the right direction. He also said that it's going to take a couple of years to establish this as to what it needs to be. Now, I like the fact they've acknowledged it. They haven't tried to there were a news story I saw online where they were sort of, they wouldn't release the viewing figures on Super League Plus and all. I felt like they were trying to
brush it under the carpet.
Yeah, just like smooth over it. It's nice that they've publicly acknowledged it and, kicking on from there. I don't quite agree that this is like a long-term fix. I think to polish it and have something that's brilliant is a long-term fix, going to take a few years, but based on... it just can't get any worse, can it?
Yeah, one thing I would touch on is in his statement, which I wasn't too impressed about. He basically said the domestic calendar is what it is, and it's not going to change. And sometimes if you don't change something, it's never going to get any better. And basically, meaning by that is we're only going to have that 1 week in the middle of the season to play an international, and it's never going to really get any better, is it? Unless we put more emphasis on the international game. That's my opinion anyway. And we know why that's happened is because the Super League clubs, they can't afford the drop in revenue. But in my opinion is if the international game doesn't grow, the domestic game is going to stagnate and it's going to stay where it is.
Well, there's a couple of things there. Just going back to things like you say, long-term fix, but come on, just give us a game we can watch easily. Make it more accessible. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if there is an increase in salary cap and we get more depth at clubs, would that allow international players the ability to cut away for a couple of weeks and give us more of a window? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we could have, we do it for the Challenge Cup. We have periods where the Challenge Cup's on and Super League games aren't playing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, would that have an effect? Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know enough about it, but it just seems to me that we're kind of, all right, this is, there's a line here, it won't change, so this is what we've got to deal with. Why can't it change? If we have more depth at clubs, Super League games could go on in some guys.
Here's one for you.
Go on then.
So they play loop fixtures, don't they, at the minute?
Yeah.
They play essentially each club 3 times. I think I've got that right. If they only played each other twice, and so there's a lot less fixtures in the season, how much do you think it'd hurt the revenue of the clubs? Do you think we'd get bigger crowds because there'd be less games? I always go back to 96, 97 when Super League started. There weren't as many teams, were there? What was it, like 10 or 12 teams or something?
There were. I mean,
crowds seem to be bigger back then.
Yeah, and I think, potentially it's worth looking at because, we've got a really long season now.
Yeah,
but there's those few weeks at the start of the season where it's still cold, wet and miserable and sometimes a bit of a non-starter, and I'm sure everyone's excited to get to the season.
Well, it's cold, wet and miserable at the start of the season. It's cold, wet and miserable at the end of the season. And
Can we condense it?
Yeah, I think it needs condensing. Genuinely, I think we have too many games. And you made a point earlier when you were making a coffee.
Did I?
Player welfare.
Yeah.
Is there too many games? You know, if you had more internationals, majority of players won't be playing. I think we'd see bigger crowds. I genuinely think we'd see bigger crowds.
Well, all that has a knock on to total revenue then, doesn't it, as well? So we're sort of saying that, the clubs are not creating space for these internationals so they keep hold of the revenue. If you start shortening the season,
yes,
you're reducing the revenue. So...
the revenue would then go directly to the RFL, wouldn't it? Who hosts who hosts the internationals, who could then distribute it to the locals. I am led to believe that internationals do still make a profit for the RFL. So, yeah, less Super League, more international. I'm sticking with that.